From the Iowa Agribusiness Radio Network studios in Des Moines, this is Iowa Ag Matters. I'm Riley Smith. In today's show, Mark joins Senator Chuck Grassley's weekly ag conference call. I have the latest South America update with Greg McBride of Allendale, and special correspondent Russ Parker visits with Wen Carter of AMVAC. Now let's join in with our hosts, Mark Magnuson and Dustin Huffman.
Well, welcome into another edition of Iowa Ag Matters here on the Iowa Agribusiness Radio Network. I am Dustin Huffman. Mark Magnuson joining me here as well as we keep rolling on a Wednesday. It is, of course, Income Tax Day, and everybody's so excited about that, I know. But it is obviously one of the things we've got to deal with. But you got till the end of the night, 11:59 or whenever your post office closed, to get those tax returns postmarked or at least click send on. You know, I used to, have to do it by paper, Mark. I know you're probably not that old, but you have to at least click submit on them by 11:59 to make sure they get filed on time without any penalties. So, Mark, you got your taxes all done?
Oh, yeah. And then, coming up in today's show, we're actually going to hear from Senator Chuck Grassley talking about some of the tax-related things with farming, as, of course, it is tax day, like you mentioned, and he will get into some of the topics related to taxes and the ag world.
Yeah, looking forward to hear what he's going to say about that. And of course, I will be speaking later on today, and you'll hear tomorrow on Iowa Ag Matters with USDA Secretary Brooke Rollins, as we're going to talk about some of the tax day benefits that are coming and what that's going to mean for farmers and ag retailers, and of course, rural America as well as our rural cities and towns. So interesting to hear what she has to say about that as well. So look for that tomorrow on Iowa Ag Matters. But yeah, it's another dreary day. We better talk about the weather, get that over with. But we had a little bit of a toad strangler here earlier with the rain coming down in Des Moines. Riley said he almost floated his way down here instead of drove. But, it's just another day, and talking some more heavy storms tonight.
It does start to feel like, Dustin, we're going to have to let things dry out a little bit now before we get going at full speed, because we did hear some reports from Riley earlier this week when he talked with Bill Backus of BASF about planning taking place in southwest Iowa. I know in the southern portion of the state, there's probably quite a few areas where things have gotten going, at least to a decent degree. But here in central Iowa, it's going to have to dry out a little bit because we've been getting pretty consistent rainfall just about every, day, 2 to 3 days at a time here in the last 2 weeks.
I was going to say, if we go more than 2 days without rain lately, it's going to be kind of shocking. Also, some tornado activity announced out in the east central and northeastern parts of the state. They had some bad tornadoes up in Wisconsin last night as well. So hopefully not too much damage to the folks out there, and hopefully it's something we can recover from. Of course, luckily, there's no crops up yet either, but, I always worry about farm sites, human lives, livestock lives, and much more. So, again, it's that time of year, and of course, the possibility still exists tonight for some spinning wind, as my friend used to always call it. So, we'll keep an eye on that, and hopefully it won't be a big deal. But, of course, the market's paying close attention to the weather now in America, as the Brazil soybean harvest is all but wrapped up, and, now it's time for us to get into the field, and we're seeing some delays. So, it's been interesting. We've been hearing droughts in some areas and floods in another, and that's just the way it's been, hit or miss. It's just the way it goes. Well, let's go ahead and look at those markets, see what's happening in the grains. Soybeans got off to a strong start. Jim McCormick of agmarket.net talks now with Mark Magnuson.
Joined today by Jim McCormick of agmarket.net. Jim, what's happening with the trade in the grains?
Hey, good morning. We are seeing a little bit of a mixed trade. We have the corn market trading about a nickel higher this morning. We have front month beans trading about 7 cents higher. New crop beans up about 6.5. The wheat market, after surging the last couple of days, is seeing a little bit of weakness. We're down about 3.5, 4 cents on the Chicago wheat, and down about the same on the Kansas City wheat this morning.
And you mentioned that about the wheat. We don't talk about the wheat all that often, but with the prices moving the way they have, is it all tied into what's happening in the Middle East right now?
Actually, a lot of it has to do what's doing it is going on in the weather market here in the U.S. They're just not catching a lot of rain in that western part of Kansas, parts of Oklahoma and Texas. That drought is raging, and they are essentially putting a lot of weather premium in the Kansas City wheat market. That is pulling the Chicago market up because the Chicago, for the most part, has been getting decent rains in general. And then those two, with the wheat being pulled up, that is providing a little bit of support for the corn market. So, the Middle East is definitely keeping an argument in there as to the uncertainty of what's going to happen there, keeps the inflation argument in play, as well as just the security of the world food situation. The headline day to day is, each day, Mark, we don't get that straight opening and the world calm down. It's one day we're not making fertilizer because most of these producers in the Middle East that make fertilizer, they produce it, they ship it, and they moves out offshore for the most part. So they're getting stacked up. So each day we don't get that straight open. It's a day that we're not able to produce fertilizer for that part of the world, and that could have compounding effects into the growing season this year, as well as the major growing season for the Southern Hemisphere this upcoming fall.
And speaking of that rainfall, we have been getting pretty consistent rainfall for a couple of weeks here in the state of Iowa. Has that been widespread throughout the Corn Belt?
It's not completely widespread. I mean, it swings up through parts of Missouri into maybe northern Illinois, parts, like I said, parts of Iowa and Wisconsin have had quite a bit of rain. Where I'm at, we dropped 2 inches of rain in the last 48 hours. We've had almost 2.5 inches in the last, 2 inches in the last 24 hours, about 2.5 in the last 48 hours. So where I'm at, northern Illinois is getting hammered pretty hard. But you go to central Illinois, southern Illinois, central southern Indiana, parts of Ohio, planting is actually going quite rapid. We've actually had a few clients down in the St. Louis area that are completely done planting both corn and beans. So, certain areas of the country are rolling quite fast.
And when we look at the world situation right now, when it comes to the oil price, what's happening with oil and how is that affecting things right now?
Well, right now, the oil market's kind of calmed down a little bit. You got spot, May crude oil trading around $91. Obviously, we were trading over 100, 110 just 5-6 days ago. So, but we're still holding kind of the low made. On the other hand, we have not taken out the low made on March 23rd, which is right around the 84.37 level. So we're a little bit of a consolidation. There is optimism that we hopefully can make some peace progress with the Iranians. There's talk that maybe another meeting between us and them will essentially happen by the end of the week, and hopefully we will get this worked out, plain and simple. We need the energy flowing to drive down the price of fuel for everybody, but like I said, the real critical part for the American producer now is we need to get this fertilizer manufacturer up and running and flowing to where it's needed.
Your local radio station brings you the local news you depend on. The Iowa Agribusiness Radio Network complements that with ag news, weather, and market updates tailored for Iowa's farmers. Together, we deliver the best of both worlds, local connection and industry expertise. It's all to keep you connected with the heartbeat of the heartland. The Iowa Agribusiness Radio Network, connecting rural Iowa with the news that matters to you.
Back on Iowa Ag Matters, and as we mentioned earlier, South America's harvest is almost all wrapped up for soybeans. We are going to go south of the border, see what's going on in their weather patterns and what we're looking at crop-wise with Greg McBride of Allendale, talking right now with Riley Smith.
On the phone right now with Greg McBride of Allendale as we take a look at the conditions down in South America. And Greg, first off, what are we seeing in the latest weather patterns for Brazil and Argentina?
Yeah, we're drying out a little bit in Brazil. The last couple of weeks have seen about half the normal rains that they would like to see. This is something that as they go into the final prep and final growing stage for that second crop corn, that'll be something that they watch. Now the dry season is starting to approach, so this will be something that we continue to watch and monitor over the next few weeks as well. But it's not that they've gone completely zero on their rain. It's just about half the rain that they'd like to see at this time of the year. So we'll continue to watch that. The 1 to 5 day forecast does show some decent rains for Argentina. The harvesting areas in Brazil are on the drier side. 6 to 10 day forecast, fairly similar. Argentina does still see some rain. So as we go towards the end of harvest for that soybean crop and into that final push for pollination and crop development for the second crop corn, this will be something that we have to monitor pretty closely.
And when we look at the crop progress in Brazil to start off with, are they close to being done on harvest? And then how's that planting progress going along?
Yeah, so soybean harvest at 86% through last Friday. The 5-year average puts them at 87. Last year they were about 90%, so just slightly behind, but they're in that final stretch. So I mean, you know how that goes. You liken it to our own crop here. It's kind of those out of the way fields, or some of the ones that they got disrupted and had to go back to, but it's a little bit further of a trot to get back out there. So as of right now, they're wrapping things up fairly soon. And then on their first crop corn, they're kind of the same situation. 68% complete. They're a little bit behind last year on the 5-year average, 70 and 71%. And then that second crop corn is fully planted. They've gone through a good portion of their pollination period. Now it's just trying to finish out that crop over the next 3 to 4 weeks, getting those kernels to fill in.
And then how is the progress in Argentina looking?
Yeah, we're in early harvest for corn again, and we've been saying that for a little while. We're about a quarter of the way through. 25% harvested on corn. That would put them ahead of the 5-year average. Normally, just under a fifth of the way. They're sitting at 18% on the 5-year average. Last year, they were at 21%. So they are ahead. We haven't heard anything about soybean harvest just yet, but as they keep telling us week in and week out, it seems like the last couple of weeks, we'll start to get updates here fairly soon. So they keep telling us a week or two. One of these weeks, probably next week, maybe we get our first indication of how far along that soybean harvest is. It'll be very early.
All right, Greg, lots of great information today. For anyone who'd like to get in touch with Allendale for more marketing information, how can they do that?
Give us a call at 800-2-MARKET. That's 800-262-7538.
Hi, my name is Ethan Smith, and I've been a certified crop advisor in Iowa for about 6 years. The Iowa CCA program is valuable to me because it helps keep me informed on new topics and research around the industry, including soils, insects, diseases, and much more. It's also a great way to network with others around the state and beyond. Iowa is known for its crops, and that's why we're here. To learn more about becoming a certified crop advisor, visit iowacca.org.
Time to run down the basis numbers here on Iowa Ag Matters on this Wednesday. I'm Dustin Huffman. Taking a look at cash bids around the state, only 3 elevators making any kind of change, but all for the positive on both corn and soybeans. Let's run them down. ADM Burlington 7 cents under on corn, $4.39. Soybeans 25 cents under at $11.37. Cargill Eddyville 11 cents under on corn, cash bid $4.35. New Co-op Algona 40 cents under on corn, $4.06. Soybeans 68 cents under, cash bid $10.94. Ag State Sheldon 22 cents under on corn, $4.24. Soybeans 70 cents under at $10.92. Ag State Elta 34 cents under on corn, cash bid $4.12. Soybeans 70 cents under at $10.92. Cargill Cedar Rapids 12 cents under on corn, $4.34. Soybeans 20 cents under, they're at $11.42, and their annual corn plant shutdown is going on through Friday the 17th. 5-Star Co-op Nashua 28 cents under on corn, $4.18. Soybeans 62 cents under at $11 even. Lincoln Way Energy Nevada 15 cents under on corn, cash bid $4.31. ADM Des Moines 25 cents under on soybeans, cash price there $11.37. New Co-op Red Oak 35 cents under on corn, $4.11. Soybeans 65 cents under, $10.97. Mid-Iowa Cooperative Green Mountain 45 cents under on corn, $4.01. Soybeans 78 cents under at $10.84. At New Co-op Sheraton 30 cents under on corn, $4.16. Soybeans 65 cents under, $10.97. Waukon Feed Ranch 42 cents under on corn, $4.04. Soybeans 60 cents under at $11.02. New Co-op Glidden 38 cents under on corn, $4.08. Soybeans 68 cents under at $10.94. Innovative Ag Farley 43 cents under on corn, $4.03. Soybeans 68 cents under, $10.94. And at Cargill Muscatine, they're 15 cents under on corn, $4.31. Soybeans 25 cents under at $11.37. Cash corn and soybean bids are subject to change without notice. Always check with your local elevator and making sales to obtain the most recent price. And that's been a check of your basis numbers here on Iowa Ag Matters. Stay with us. We'll be back right after this.
Stay informed with the closing market report from the Iowa Agribusiness Radio Network, your essential summary of the day's market activities and their impact on the agricultural economy. Join us for timely updates and expert commentary on commodity prices and market trends with trusted ag market analysts from around the Midwest. Tune in every Monday through Friday on your local Iowa Agribusiness Radio Network affiliate for your daily market recap and insights to stay ahead in the ag economy.
You're listening to Iowa Ag Matters on the Iowa Agribusiness Radio Network. Yesterday, Senator Chuck Grassley held his weekly ag conference call with farm broadcasters and reporters, and he started off the call with some comments about the situation with taxes as it relates to farming, also discussed year-round E15 potential legislation and what that would mean for farmers. Here's Senator Grassley.
Wednesday is tax day. While most farmers have already filed their taxes, it's worth highlighting how the tax law that President Trump signed last July 4th, how it benefits the family farmer today. The Working Families Tax Cut Act made several important provisions for farmers permanent. So you won't have the sunset situation down the road a few years like we did when we passed these same things in the 2017 tax bill, and they were sunsetting at the end of last year. So what I'm talking about making permanent is lower tax rates overall, and another measure allowing up to 20% deduction on qualified business income. That's very important for farmers and small businesses, and that won't sunset again. The law also enacted a $15 million per couple death tax exemption, makes it easier to pass down the family farm to the next generation. Another provision includes bonus depreciation that allows farm equipment and other eligible assets to be expensed in year one instead of spreading out over several years. Lastly, farmers can spread out capital gains tax that they owe over 4 years on the sale of farmland when sold to another farmer. Many of the tax provisions in the Working Families Tax Cut Act will help every farmer every year. Now, it sounds like I'm saying everything in farming is peachy, and it's not. We got input costs and lower prices that are still hurting farmers. We also have trade disruption, and then you have state regulations like California's Proposition 12. So then the Republican tax laws deliver much needed boost to family farmers and working Americans in light of low prices and high input costs. Then we, of course, have the uncertainty of trade and things of that nature. Let me say one other thing before you ask your questions. Kind of something that I talk about to you every Tuesday, but I want to bring it up, and that's E15. Feenstra is working real hard with Speaker Johnson to get E15 through the House. And Speaker Johnson, when we didn't get it in the appropriation bill back in February, promised that we're going to get E15, and now is the time to deliver. There couldn't be any better opportunity than when we have these low corn prices, and economists for the Iowa corn producers, corn growers, says that it's going to bring $14 billion into farm income. Very important. And particularly, this ought to be important for just a lot of people who want to help the farmers. And the president is speaking up now about fertilizer prices. And it's good to have the White House talk about high input prices for farmers. It makes farmers feel very good about it. And I'll tell you how welcome the President of the United States speaking up about high fertilizer prices is because in my 25 county meetings that I had this Easter recess, it was constantly coming up about high input costs, low prices, the uncertainty of tariffs, what's going on in Iran and how it's driven up the diesel prices. Farmers are at fits what to do about it. And so it's very encouraging to have President Trump speak up about this. But the best thing to do would be when we put more money into the Defense Department to replenish our defense warehouses because we're shooting up so many missiles, and that's going to happen shortly. And because the Iran war is driving up the price of diesel way beyond $5, it's very important that we would have E-15 in that legislation because it's just strictly E-15 nationwide year-round goes very much in a bill to replenish the cost of diesel because replenish war material because the war itself is causing some of these input costs to farmers.
Hi, my name is Ethan Smith, and I've been a certified crop advisor in Iowa for about 6 years. The Iowa CCA program is valuable to me because it helps keep me informed on new topics and research around the industry, including soils, insects, diseases, and much more. It's also a great way to network with others around the state and beyond. Iowa is known for its crops, and that's why we're here. To learn more about becoming a certified crop advisor, visit iowacca.org.
Well, it's been a fairly warm morning here in central Iowa. We had rainstorms working their way through earlier this morning. And Dustin, that had me thinking once again about the 4-inch soil temperatures. Are we continuing to heat up around the state?
We are, but it's nothing that's really staying very static, though. Yesterday, we were forecasting soil temperatures in the 60s. We only got to the upper mid-40s to the upper 60s. So, I mean, it was quite a varied stretch. The mid-40s were up in the extreme northwestern corner of the state. Now, today, they're hoping that we're going to get into the upper 50s and into the mid-60s in some spots. That's the forecast for today. Of course, we'll find out tomorrow what they actually read out. But again, I think it's just trying to get it dialed in here with all the weather and all the changes in temperatures and all the rain. It's just kind of making things hard to predict. We'll have more Iowa Ag Matters in a moment.
Your local radio station brings you the local news you depend on. The Iowa Agribusiness Radio Network complements that with ag news, weather, and market updates tailored for Iowa's farmers. Together, we deliver the best of both worlds, local connection and industry expertise. It's all to keep you connected with the heartbeat of the heartland. The Iowa Agribusiness Radio Network, connecting rural Iowa with the news that matters to you.
This is the Midday Market Update on Iowa Ag Matters. I'm Mark Magnuson, joined at midday by Jason Meyer of agmarket.net. Jason, what's happening with the trade in the grains here on Wednesday?
Lots of green in the markets here today on grain, so nice to see. As of this recording, corn's up about 7, beans are up 11. It feels like we're kind of bouncing off some important technical levels that we saw yesterday and early in the overnight. And then I would almost argue we're seeing farmers going to the field or thinking about planting. We're not seeing very much farmer movement in the country. We've seen basis levels on old crop corn and beans improve here the last week to 2 weeks. And I think the futures markets are rallying here just to try to help encourage some movement in this historically quiet period of time here.
And at this point in the middle of the week, right now, as you look at the grain side of the markets, what do you think is the main driver that is moving those prices?
You could maybe argue that planting progress is maybe a little bit slower than normal. I don't want to get on that bandwagon. And then kind of what I alluded to earlier, just farmer movement is pretty much non-existent right now. So the market's just trying to encourage movement out there in the country.
What's happening on the livestock side of the trade?
Well, the cattle market has made new contract highs most every day this week, but today we have not been able to do that, and the markets are turning a little red here. So it feels like a little profit taking after we've seen new contract highs here. The hog market just continues to struggle to find a bid here, just down
slightly, but there's some hope that if the Iran-U.S. war can actually come to an end, that could be friendly the pork market here.
And at least for the time being, that oil prices dip back down a little bit. Has that helped the livestock side?
I would say that's helped the livestock side as well. There's a lot of thoughts out there with higher crude oil prices. Folks aren't going to be going out to eat as much, but as crude oil has kind of moderated, that's definitely helped out the livestock markets here as well.
Start your weekend with insight and inspiration on Weekend Ag Matters from the Iowa Agribusiness Radio Network. Every week we bring you an in-depth look at the top ag stories with a recap of the week's biggest headlines. Join us for long-format interviews with industry leaders and policymakers, giving you insights you won't hear anywhere else. And don't miss our faith-based segment with Russ Parker, Food for Thought, offering a perspective that helps bring clarity and focus to our lives. Make Weekend Ag Matters part of your weekend routine. Tune in every weekend on the Iowa Agribusiness Radio Network.
May corn up 7 1/4 at $4.50 1/4. December corn up 6 1/2 at $4.77. May soybeans up 12 cents at $11.70. November soybeans up 12 1/2 at $11.56 1/2. May soybean meal up $2.60 at $3.32.30. May soybean oil up $1.21 at $67.65. Chicago wheat down 1/2 cent at $5.91 1/2. Minneapolis wheat down a penny at $6.37. On the Merc, April live cattle down 30 cents at $252.25. April feeder cattle down $2.70 at $373.18. May lean hogs down 53 cents at $93.70. May pork cutout unchanged at $108.78. Class 3 milk up 2 cents at $16.99. That was a check of the midday markets on Iowa Ag Matters. I'm Mark Magnuson.
Back on Iowa Ag Matters now, as we're going to go into the livestock side of the marketplace. Mark Magnuson continuing his conversation with Jim McCormick of agmarket.net.
What's happening on the livestock side of the trade?
Relatively quiet this morning in the cattle market, a little bit mixed trade. Feeder cattle down about 90 cents cattle market. The beat goes on, tight supply. Market continues to work higher on that demand. Optimism going in the growing season is trumping the higher cost of energy for the most part. On the other hand, the hog market continues to weaken. We've had 6-7 days of weakness. Today, we're watching the 200-day moving average on some of these contracts. On the May contract, you're below it. On the July contract, you're below the 100-day. So technically the market is oversold, but the hogs just continue to struggle at the moment.
And I've been thinking a lot about grilling season this year. Is this going to finally be the time where we see consumers turn back from beef a little bit? Or do you think it is the case that, you know what, they might just be turning to a lot of hamburgers on the grill this year instead of those premium cuts?
Well, right now, if you look at what the market action's telling you right now, the prices continue to surge. So at this point, the market is assuming that they've got prices the consumer will bear and willing to pay. Time will tell.
And I guess that also ties back into the conversation about the oil price. As long as the oil price comes back down and that eventually finds its way to the fuel pumps, that would also play a big part in that, I would imagine.
No doubt about it. I mean, that's where the one thing I got to admit, it's a little bit surprised. I think a lot of people were worried that would you see the demand for beef temper, the high price cut temper with this high price of, with gasoline essentially rallying over $1 for most of the country. At this point, it does not look like it is dissuaded the consumer from buying this high price beef, which is very good for the cattle producer, obviously.
Jim McCormick of agmarket.net, my guest here today. What's the best way for our listeners to get in touch for more marketing information?
You can reach me directly at 815-665-0461. Reach any of the Ag Market team members at 844-424-6758.
Jim McCormick, agmarket.net. Thanks so much for the time. Always appreciate it, and have a great rest of your day.
Thank you for having me on.
Stay up to date with the latest in the ag industry with Agribusiness Matters from the Iowa Agribusiness Radio Network. Each weekday, we bring you the latest advancements in farming, from new precision ag technology to cutting-edge sustainable farming practices. Agribusiness Matters is also your source for the most relevant ag news, policy discussions, and insights that are shaping the future of agriculture. Tune in to Agribusiness Matters on the Iowa Agribusiness Radio Network, where Iowa Ag matters.
Hi, my name is Ethan Smith, and I've been a certified crop advisor in Iowa for about 6 years. The Iowa CCA program is valuable to me because it helps keep me informed on new topics and research around the industry, including soils, insects, diseases, and much more. It's also a great way to network with others around the state and beyond. Iowa is known for its crops, and that's why we're here. To learn more about becoming a certified crop advisor, visit iowacca.org.
In rural Iowa, we know you're sold on your local radio station. The Iowa Agribusiness Radio Network partners with local Iowa stations to deliver the latest in agriculture news, including grain elevator prices, market reports, and ag policy news. Trusted local voices, trusted ag content. This message is brought to you by your friends at the Iowa Agribusiness Radio Network, where Iowa Ag matters.
We're back on Iowa Ag Matters, and we are going to hear now from special correspondent Russ Parker as he talks with the folks at AMVAC about a product they got called Duro LQ and what it's going to mean for both herbicide and pesticide applications. Russ?
I'm with Wen Carter, and Wen, if you can introduce yourself and tell us what you do, and then you've got some news for us. We'll talk about that.
Yeah, certainly. Thank you, Russ. I'm Wen Carter, Product Development and Technical Agronomy Manager for the U.S. for AMVAC.
So obviously you've got a full portfolio of products. Let's talk about some of those legacy products that you bring to the market, and then we'll go into the insecticides part of the equation from there.
Yeah, certainly, Russ. We are very proud of the proven products that we have in our portfolio, ranging from the soil insecticide space with some of our proven winners like Aztec, Index, and Counter, but also the fumigation space with Vapam and Kpam, two other products that we are very proud of that help potato growers day in and day out. But then also I know we're at Commodity Classic, and cotton doesn't necessarily get as big of a play at Commodity Classic, but we have some proven products in there as well when it comes to Bidrin and Folex. But where we really feel we shine and say punch above our weight is in the soil insecticide space, and we're happy to talk about a new product that we've got coming.
So a household name for us here at the radio network. But let's talk about what your it sounds like got approval for yesterday.
Yeah, this week actually, Duro LQ, which is a new liquid corn soil insecticide that we have available that'll be liquid fertilizer compatible, can be applied directly in the furrow, and we're very pleased with the corn rootworm performance that we've seen over the last 5 years, competitive performance with all of the leading products in the industry right now, and we're very excited to be able to bring this to the grower at a very competitive price.
So, one of the things that we were talking about earlier was, sticking on your plan, staying on your plan. How can you, from a producer perspective, kind of incorporate this product into your thinking, and when's a good time to really be thinking about taking an advantage of it?
Yeah, certainly. So for this year, like we said, we just got registration. So really what this year will be focused on for us is showing that performance to the grower. So we're going to have some large-scale grower plots that will be out there. We will not have it available in time for purchase for 2026 planting. However, we will have some opportunities for growers to look at it in the field. So what we really want growers to do is in the fall, when they're running their combines this year and thinking about where they could improve upon some control, or where they might need to find a product that provides the same efficacy at a little bit better value option, we'd like them to start considering Duro LQ for their corn rootworm in-furrow solution for 2027. So really this year is all about us building awareness to the brand and the performance that it brings to the table. And then 27, we'll be ready to see it in the field.
So do we want to talk about the active ingredients in this product? Is that something you want to include or not? Okay, all right, that's fine. So if a grower wants to get some more information and start doing some exploring and maybe kind of follow along through the summer, how can they stay side by side with you guys?
Thank you, Russ. That's a great question. That's another one that we're really excited about. So what we're trying to do this year, I mentioned some of these larger plot grower trials, demo trials that we're going to be doing. We're going to have to create a video series. That way somebody can come along with us as we go out there at planting, apply this product. We'll give a little bit more background information at that time. Then we'll come back there in the middle of the season, do some root digs, check out the performance in the field, and then we'll come back again to see where it really makes the money, and that's in the combine, and see what the yield numbers are. So we hope to have that video series available on the website so growers can follow along with the performance throughout the year. And then really we're going to be looking at doing some articles, in some different networks, doing some radio advertising as well to just kind of get that message out there and really speak to the performance of the product throughout the year.
Okay, well, I've been with Wen Carter, We are at the AMVAC booth at Commodity Classic 2026. Ben, I appreciate your time. And this is Russ Parker reporting for the Iowa Agribusiness Radio Network.
Hi, my name is Ethan Smith, and I've been a certified crop advisor in Iowa for about 6 years. The Iowa CCA program is valuable to me because it helps keep me informed on new topics and research around the industry, including soils, insects, diseases, and much more. It's also a great way to network with others around the state and beyond. Iowa is known for its crops, and that's why we're here. To learn more about becoming a certified crop advisor, visit iowacca.org.
In rural Iowa, you need reliable information. The Iowa Agribusiness Radio Network brings you ag-specific content like market trends, weather outlooks, and policy updates that matter to your operation, while your local station brings you community news and consistent updates on what is happening in your area. It's a partnership built for the challenges of rural life. Your farm, your local station, and your friends at the Iowa Agribusiness Radio Network, where Iowa Ag matters. Find us online at iowaagnet.com.
Thanks for joining us for another edition of Iowa Ag Matters here on the Iowa Agribusiness Radio Network. You can find full episodes of the show anytime under our podcast tab at iowaagnet.com. Also, while you're there, don't forget to sign up for our newsletter. That's how you can get our 5 daily news stories sent to your email inbox each day at 5 p.m. Thanks to Riley. Thanks to Dustin. I'm Mark Magnuson. Thanks for listening. Join us again tomorrow for more Iowa Ag Matters.